Welcome to the Janus Project. We are in the middle of Creation Week, and Lord willing, you've watched the introductory video to this series, and you know what we're doing. We are responding to Bill Nye's undeniable book, which, in my opinion, is very deniable, and I just don't think he understands creation that well. Now, what we're getting into today is Chapter 3 of his book, and in Chapter 3 of his book, what he deals with is the second law of thermodynamics, which says that everything is wearing down. Basically, everything is going from a state of order to a state of disorder, and in his words, this is what he says. The second law of thermodynamics is this. Given the chance, balls roll downhill. They never roll uphill on their own. Put another way, energy tends to spread out. Heat spreads out. A lake never spontaneously freezes on a warm summer day. Creationists seem to think that the human species has likewise been running downhill ever since the fall, since our ancestors Adam and Eve screwed up. Creationists hear the second law of thermodynamics and say, aha, see, our whole world is a machine winding down. Death to everyone. Now, goes on, and he talks about some of the other laws of thermodynamics that don't come up in creationist diatribes. But that's because they don't apply to this situation. So he talks a lot about how ignorant creationists are, and how stupid creationists are, and how foolish they are, and how much they deny science. As we go through this series, we will address some of those issues. He says creation has no predictive ability. I beg to differ. One of the things, creationists have predicted some things would work a certain way. So they predicted that if you laid down in layers of mud, that it would lay down and harden, and you'd have things fossilized and things like that. And then if water were to be released while that mud was still hardening, it would carve something that looked like the Grand Canyon. And we were looked at as stupid, and then Mount St Helens happened, and it was a 1/40th the scale of the Grand Canyon created in a very, very short time. And so it proved that what we thought would happen would really happen. And that was laid down by a volcano and mud flows and dust and all of that. And so if you go to Mount St Helens, you find what looks like the Grand Canyon at 1/40th the scale, and it was carved very quickly. So the layers were laid down really quickly, they hardened really quickly, and then the water coming off the top of the mountain carved the channels really quickly. And so when he says that creation has no predictive ability to it, he's just wrong. Just want to clear that one up. So he'll bring up certain times where evolutionists got it right. We'll talk about that. But he uses words like diatribes and ignorant and foolish and things like that. Now, my big issue with the second law of thermodynamics is a very hard word to say. I'm going to trip over it every single time I say it. My big issue with his issue is he says the law of thermodynamics only is violated in a closed system. So just so you understand, the difference between a closed and an open system is this. A closed system is closed. It has nothing getting into it. So I have a bottle of root beer here. This is a closed system in the sense that no more root beer is coming into this bottle. But if I pop the top on this cap of root beer, all right, which I don't even know if I can right now. But if I were to open the cap on this root beer and I were to dunk it into a big vat of root beer, it's an open system. Root beer is coming in and out of the system. So I couldn't make any assumptions. So if I was looking at this and I said, the root beer over time slowly turns into something else, so therefore I can figure out how much root beer is left and how long it's been in this bottle. As long as it's a closed system, that would be true. But the moment it becomes an open system, I have no idea. So the point that creationists make is that in the case of a closed system, energy always wears down. It always goes from order to disorder. That's the idea of entropy and all of that, if you're familiar with those terms. So what he's saying is our world is not a closed system. And so therefore, the law of thermodynamics does not apply. Here's where he's wrong. Okay? The entire universe, which is basically all of creation, that is a closed system. There is no energy coming in from the outside unless you believe in the multiverse theory or something like that. So in the sense of the Earth, I would agree with you. The Earth is absorbing energy from the sun and from outer space and radiation and all of these things. It is getting energy from outside. And so theoretically, you could have the idea that the law of thermodynamics is not quite applicable because you have energy coming in from outside. Now, the point, though, that could still stand is unless there is something to reverse the disorder. So what we have noticed genetically and through other means is mutations are on the rise, diseases are on the rise, deformities are on the rise. And so you can kind of do some modeling and figure out how long, we would be around based on certain rates. Those don't really point to a huge long time that we've been on this planet because, again, the mutations just escalate and are terrible. So you could make some cases through that we're still going toward disorder. The problem, however, is he makes the point in this chapter that we are not a closed system. We are an open system, which means the root beer bottle has been opened and root beer is coming in from the outside, so you really can't make any judgment calls because it's open. Like I said, the difficulty is the entire universe, somewhere out there, wherever the boundary of space and time is, that is a closed system. And so the entire energy of everything is slowly wearing down. And so this idea that there was a big bang that all the energy came from, well, where is the energy coming from now? If it came from the big bang, if it came from the origin of the universe, then you have a certain amount of energy that is available, and it is slowly wearing down. And so that's my big issue with chapter 3. So he talks all about the amount of energy that the sun is providing. That's all well and good. That's great. But again, if you take the universe as a closed system, not the earth, if you take the universe, then energy will be wearing out and wearing down. And so therefore, some of these laws of thermodynamics apply. And again, just pumping the universe, pumping the earth full of energy does not mean then that life is going to spontaneously arise. That's never been observed, will not be observed. I would point you toward icons of evolution. Icons of evolution is going to point out things like the Miller-Urey experiment, which supposedly created, the first amino acids, which make which are the building blocks of proteins, which are the building blocks of DNA, which are the building blocks of life. So they're like, ooh, it could happen by accident. The Miller-Urey experiment was terribly flawed. And so any of the experiments they've done to try to figure out how life could arise by energy pumping over a primordial soup and just happening to bring, they don't work. So we have tried in our intelligence to bring about life. It doesn't work. And so there are some of the issues that I have with chapter 3. These episodes are going to be a little bit shorter. They're going to be trimmed down and just kind of get to the point. Hopefully you guys will join me for the continuation of Creation Week here on the Janus Project. Please remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more, leave a comment below. It helps get me on the algorithm, and I appreciate it, guys. I will see you next time on Creation Week.